Hello, my name is Linda Carabaris and welcome to my back deck. Today is a beautiful summer day and the beginning of grilling season. So today's show will focus on grilling techniques, and I am actually just on my way to go meet my friend Matt Haist, who is the executive chef at Capital Grille in Providence, and he will be the best one to consult you on some terrific grilling techniques. So I'll meet you over at Matt's house in a few minutes.
Morning,
Hey,
Linda.
Matt.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Welcome.
Thanks, brought the vegetables.
Good. I got some vegetables as well. Probably not as fresh as yours, though.
I doubt that. Look at this garden. What
How's
a
it going?
great garden. What do you have here?
We have everything. We have everything from pumpkins to butternut squash, green beans, eggplant, red and banana peppers, cucumbers, squash, fresh basil, lettuces, potatoes, onions, tomatoes, and corn. So a little bit of everything. So definitely have a nice fresh couple dishes for the summer.
Okay, terrific. Yep, because we're going to talk about, as I talked about earlier, grilling basics. So
Grilling
you're the
101.
expert.
Grilling 101.
Yep,
Yeah,
you're
if I
the
ever
expert.
grilled a few steaks in my day. So we have two dishes we're going to work on today. You brought your vegetables. What did you bring?
Yep, let me, I brought, this is one thing I always love on the grill that I think is very simple to put together, is I just took some zucchini and summer squash,
Excellent.
cut it on the diagonal, and just tossed it with a little bit of Italian dressing. And then this is the type of thing I like to do because you can do it the night before.
Exactly. You can
So-
prepare it so when you come home from work, all you gotta do is throw it on the grill.
Yep. And
Excellent.
then I'm going to, and then here's another one of my favorites, Matt. Oh, I love this. Asparagus. I
Oh,
love
nice.
doing asparagus on the grill. And again, the night before, all I did was trimmed off the bottoms. I steamed them 5 minutes, and then once I take them off the steamer, I just splash them with some cold water
Yep.
to keep that color, right?
Yep.
And then put them in a dish and just drizzled some olive oil over the top.
Cool. And we'll finish them off with a little bit of salt and pepper.
Yep,
And,
great.
Excellent.
Okay.
all right, shall we begin?
Yes. Yeah.
So the two dishes I prepared today, or plan on preparing today, which are perfect, easy things for everybody to make at home, would be
Okay.
a nice Italian-style chicken. It's a boneless chicken breast.
All right.
And we're gonna add some balsamic vinegar, a little bit of olive oil, some fresh basil, and a little bit of oregano into that.
Okay.
And then for our second dish, which would be a salmon, and as you can see in here, we have it's more of a steak. I have a little netting wrapped around it to hold it together. That'll prevent it from actually drying out, but it'll still allow it to cook from the top and the bottom. Some people prefer taking the skin off. Some people want to leave the skin on.
Okay.
It doesn't matter
what do you-
either way. The
okay.
skin can crisp up. Some people actually eat the skin. The skin does add some flavor to it, and it also insulates some of the fish so it doesn't dry out. So leave it, and 9 times out of 10, when you grill a piece of fish with skin, the skin will peel right off at the end.
Okay.
So it's up to your preference. If you don't want to be bothered with the skin as you're putting it on a plate, then you remove it. But otherwise, this style of preparation will hold everything together and keep it from drying out. It kind of keeps everything condensed.
Now the netting, does that come with the fish? Or you have it-
Yeah. You can. But you can, when you purchase this in the grocery store like this. I got this piece at Stop and Shop. It was already netted for you. So usually when the skin's on like that, they will cut it like that. Or if you go to a
Okay.
gourmet place like Whole Foods or one of those East Side marketplace, they usually do the same thing.
Okay. And you know what? I'm glad you're going to do a steak today because I always do fillets.
Yep. And the difference usually is
And,
exactly the
only
steak
'cause
is
it's
thicker, and
easier
sometimes the
I'm always
bone's in.
Okay, perfect, because I would love to try a steak.
Sure.
So this is going to be good for me. Yeah.
Alrighty, so the first thing we'll do is we'll start with the marinade. We have, like I said, we have some fresh basil here. So
Okay.
we'll chop this up for the chicken, not the salmon. And with basil, the easiest way, they call it a chiffonade, which is a real ribbon-like fine type. Put this right here.
Yep.
Usually what the easiest way to do that would be to take the leaves and roll them together so that everything's nice and tight. And then just simply, when you're cutting, cut fine ribbon-like. This is called a chiffonade cut. So now you have nice thin pieces. Now the other thing is some people, the trend nowadays isn't even to dice your herbs, it's to tear them so that you don't put any
okay.
pressure or stress. But anyhow, we'll sprinkle a little bit of this on our chicken.
Well, I like the look of the
I like that.
chiffonade,
Well, exactly.
though,
The
yeah.
chiffonade has a nice look. If you weren't going to chop your herbs, I'd recommend taking small basil leaves and using those, and then you could actually put that in and would give you a nice look to the dish as well, something this small.
Okay.
So you'd have almost the same size basil, but it would give it more of a rustic style look.
Okay, yeah.
So we have our basil, we have our balsamic vinegar.
Okay.
We have a little bit of olive oil.
Yeah.
And we got a salt and pepper mix here.
And these herbs came from your herb garden.
Exactly, all
correct?
these
You
are
have a
fresh.
nice-
We just
wow,
picked these right
yeah,
when you were driving in the driveway.
Boy.
Herbs are very easy to grow at home, except for the basil, the oregano, and the thyme are both perennial. So once you plant them, they'll come back every year.
Okay.
And they usually come back hardier from year to year as long as your soil's rich in nutrient. So this is a dish also that can be done the night before. And just like your vegetables, let it marinate. The longer you let the product marinate,
okay.
the more flavor you're going to introduce to the product.
Yep.
So you mix this around. Salt and pepper is always liberal. A lot of people, unless you have dietary restrictions, shy away from salt, but salt's what's going to actually bring out the flavor in the vinegar as well as the basil.
Okay.
So while we have that marinating, what we're going to do for the salmon is oregano. Easiest way with fresh oregano is just slide counterclockwise from the way it would grow off the stem to take all the herbs off.
Oh, all right.
Same thing when
all
we
right.
work. Same thing when we work with the thyme. When you're handling herbs, instead of spending your whole day picking.
Yeah, like I used to do.
Slide
and you're
it
right.
off.
These are the type of techniques
Exactly.
that are very, very helpful.
And so that's not so intimidating to have your herbs. Thyme especially. I see people at the restaurant spend hours trying to pick the leaves.
Yeah.
Slide from top to bottom, counterclockwise.
Okay.
All right. So we'll get a little bit of fresh thyme in here.
Beautiful. I love the fresh thyme.
And then same thing, quick chop of this. Some people prefer a fine dice. When you're grilling, it doesn't make a difference. If you want a real fine dice, it all depends on the look.
Okay.
The flavor's the same regardless of the size of the herbs.
All right.
So we will just chop this up real quickly. Whenever you marinate, it's important. If you use oil, you want to use olive oil, not a virgin oil. Virgin olive oil doesn't have as high of a smoke point, so the product's going to burn as opposed to cook. So when you're cooking with oils, if people have questions, vegetable oil, canola oil, peanut oil, if you're not allergic, all are good oils for grilling. The other thing when you're making marinades like we're making right now, you have to introduce some sort of acid in order for that to break through the proteins of the product. So in this one we use the balsamic vinegar, and with the salmon we're going to use the lemon. Good way to juice your lemon if people have a hard time at home. If you pop a lemon in the oven for 5 minutes and then take it out, it'll bring out all the juices, and it's so easy to squeeze. So people with arthritic hands could easily bake off their lemon.
Perfect.
The other thing is, if you have a fork, if you hit the lemon with the fork before you go to squeeze it, it'll help bring out the juice. The other thing some people do is roll the lemon to soften it. So anything you can get here to bring out your juice. We'll take a couple slices of this for grilling.
The other thing I like, I have one of those little wooden juicers.
Oh yeah, those work very well too.
Yeah, don't they? Yeah, for a simple.
From one of the little parties, what are they called? The
Pampered Chef?
Pampered Chef parties, there you go. I've never been a Pampered Chef. Anyway, so we've got our lemon. We're going to put some more salt and pepper on this, and then we're going to use a little more of our olive oil. Okay. So once again, we have our salmon with oregano, thyme, and lemon, salt and pepper. And we have our chicken with balsamic vinegar, fresh basil, and lemon. I'm sorry, no lemon, fresh basil, balsamic, olive oil, and salt and pepper.
Olive oil, okay.
All right, a couple things before we throw these on the grill. It's very important, to make sure your grill has been scraped down so there's no residue from prior grilling. Okay. Some people oil the grill grates, but seeing that we have oil on the product, it's really not that necessary.
All right, so if you have oil in the product, you don't
Some
need
people may disagree, but I've worked in restaurants my whole life. We never oil the grills. What tends to happen, you oil the grill, when you put the fish on it, everything splashes up with the excess oil and you'll get a carbon flavor to your food. You'll see that black instead of a nice grilling.
Okay.
Everybody has different hot spots on their grill based on at home, so you would know based on experience cooking. The further back is going to be a little bit hotter. What we're going to do is we will put our salmon right over here, let that cook, and we'll throw our chicken right over here and let that start cooking.
All right.
For both these dishes, you're probably talking about 10 minutes salmon doesn't need to be cooked all the way through. Unfortunately, chicken does. So unless you like salmonella, you're going to probably cook the chicken a little bit longer than the salmon. But salmon, some people eat their salmon mid-rare, rare. A technique when cooking fish, I don't have a skewer, but at home, if you have a wooden skewer, it's kind of like when you're cooking with a cake.
Yeah.
When you put that skewer in, you should feel no resistance. If you have a little bit of resistance when you put the skewer in, it means the fish isn't cooked. As soon as the skewer goes through the fish easily, it's cooked enough.
Just a wooden skewer.
Just a wooden skewer.
And I keep those in the house all
Exactly.
the time. Okay.
The French chefs, traditionally European chefs, if you go to a French restaurant, what they'll do is they'll have metal skewers. So they'll use if I use this knife, and what they do is they'll put the metal skewer in and hold it to their chin. And as soon as they feel warmth from the metal skewer, to them the fish is done. So that's an old French tradition.
Yeah.
But in our restaurant, when I'm working with my chefs, I always tell them, because unlike steaks go from medium to medium rare to well done. You have degrees of temperature. Fish is one of those things that's either cooked or it's overcooked. There's not much of a window.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Traditionally, the average, homemaker overcooks their fish.
Yes. Yes.
So
that's why I usually always ended up getting the fillets, because they were always the same thickness. And once I got the timing down, I knew exactly. When, but I'm going to try that.
But try the wooden skewer, because that's a good way. You can do that when you're baking fish, grilling fish, if you're cooking fish at home. If you put the wooden skewer in, you feel no resistance. When you push it in, there's no resistance, so the tissue and the muscle isn't giving you any resistance. It goes right in real easy. It's completely cooked.
It's done. Okay. And you said about 10 minutes on a steak.
Yeah.
What's the thickness on that?
The thickness is about 2 inches on this.
2 inches on that.
An inch and a half to 2 inches. This will probably take about 10 minutes. The chicken may take a few minutes longer. If you're cooking at home, this is obviously a large grill. If you close the grill top, it's obviously going to shorten your cooking time.
Okay.
Whereas this grill, it'll take a little bit longer because obviously with the breeze and such. Other tips when grilling, you see the avid grill person, they feel that the more they move everything, the more they're doing.
Right.
That's a farce too. You shouldn't have to touch the product more than 3 or 4 times throughout the cooking process. Give it about 5 or 6 minutes on one side, turn it halfway, give it another 5-6 minutes, flip it, same thing, or 3 or 4 minutes depending on the thickness. But you should only really need to move the product 3 or 4 times throughout the cooking process.
And that's the oil on the marinade is going to prevent that from sticking?
It should prevent it. The other thing is that when a piece of fish or steak or even chicken is ready to be turned, it'll tell you. You go to pick it up, and if you have to peel it off, 9 times out of 10, the proteins haven't released enough and aren't cooked enough, so that's the reason why it's actually sticking to the grill. So when you go to move the product, if you can easily get your knife underneath, your knife or your spatula, your tongs underneath the product. We still have a little resistance, but in the front we don't. We're going to let that go for a few more minutes because it's not ready to be turned. On the chicken, over here, see, it's allowing us to move it. So now we'll pick it up and move it.
Okay.
What I would recommend is with vegetables like you have, since the vegetables are already blanched off and these vegetables are raw, I'd put the raw ones on a little bit before I would the blanched ones. But the point being is I would usually not put this product on until I flip the chicken, because the asparagus will take about 3 minutes on the grill. Technically, it's already cooked. The only reason you're putting it on the grill is to give it some color, give it a little caramelization. Exactly. So the asparagus can go on right before you're ready to serve.
Okay, good. I'm glad I do that properly, because I only put it on 3 or 4 minutes tops. Because like you said, it's already blanched, and I like it kind of
al dente. Exactly.
Yes.
The zucchini and summer squash, same thing. We can put this on as soon as we flip it. This will take probably 5 or 6 minutes, depending on the degree of doneness you like. Some people like their vegetables crunchy. Some people like them soggy. So obviously if you like them soggy. Now the rest of the salmon should be, see how now it's loose? Nothing's sticking to the grill. So now we know we turn that. So basically the product will tell you when it's ready to be turned.
Okay.
Some people smash when they're making burgers, pushing all the juice out. That's not really necessary unless like your meat well done, all you're doing is taking all the juice out of something. Squeezing things, bending things. With the chicken near the end, we may squeeze, we may poke it a little just to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. People are a little leery with chicken. Fish though, it shouldn't take much time at all.
Okay.
As far as our vegetables, the other thing is when you're working on a grill, you've got a lot of bacterial things that you can introduce. People can get very sick and not even realize it. As you notice, we're using spatula on the fish. We're using the tongs on the chicken. It's really not a good idea to use tongs when you're cooking multiple proteins. See, and that's something people don't realize at home, but you're making burgers and then chicken. This chicken's not cooked at this point. All right?
Okay, you know what? I didn't, yeah,
The chicken's
I didn't
not
realize
cooked.
that.
So if I take the
Okay.
raw chicken and put it on the raw vegetables, and I only cook these raw vegetables for 2 minutes, chances are I'm going to transfer any bacteria from the chicken over here. So, you know, fish,
Excellent
you know,
point.
mostly with chicken. Fish and vegetables, it's not that big of a deal because you can eat salmon raw.
Yep,
As you can start to see the color on the top now,
yep.
this is starting to cook very nicely.
Oh,
All right?
beautiful. Now, how can you just explain how do you do those nice
Don't play with it.
marks? But you
All
did
you do
it
is,
for-
yeah,
okay.
we did two turns like we spoke about. That's how we got the nice marks. You wait until it's ready, you turn it once, and then you flip it. That's the reason why I
Like
get them.
turn it at a 45-degree
45,
angle,
90
right?
degree angle,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Turn it halfway, but then
Okay.
don't keep turning it.
Okay,
So now,
right.
we're in good shape with the salmon.
Oh, that
the
looks
chicken,
beautiful.
same thing. That's how we get our nice marks on the chicken,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, okay, the
Now,
hash marks.
we're going to
okay.
put on our zucchini and squash so we can get this started.
Yeah.
Now, as we get into this a little more, like once this chicken's cooked, if you keep your tongs on here, obviously that you're going to kill any bacteria on the chicken. But I would still use, if I was using one of the utensils at the end, once the chicken's cooked, this, seeing that it's salmon and the salmon can be eaten raw, would be the utensil I would remove all the products with because there's less likely to have any bacteria on this.
All right, all right. And you know, I like my salmon cooked all the way through, not dry, but just when it gets all the
Exactly.
way through. And that's okay, right?
That's
Because-
fine. Yeah, people don't necessarily need to eat it undercooked.
Yeah.
But once like I had mentioned with the skewer, once that skewer goes through, it will be cooked all the way through.
Okay.
It will be safe to bring it out.
I can't wait to try that method. That seems like a good one.
We'll do it today with the knife if you want, because it'll give you the same. A skewer works better because it's not sharp, but if you use the point of a knife, you'll see as well. If you put the knife in there, you'll feel the resistance.
Okay, all right.
So obviously we have a
Yeah,
beautiful
we-
marinade over here. We've already flipped the fish once. Might as well take advantage of some of the marinade as well
Ah,
to give us a little more flavor.
yep.
If you ever have a fire on a grill, the natural reaction is to pour water on it. That's
Okay.
not a good idea. Water and grease is not what you want to do. If anything, you're better off keeping a glass of milk over by the side of the grill. Milk is
Milk?
the proteins in the milk will put out a grease fire. People don't realize, and I'm sure if you speak to the firefighters, grease and water is like gasoline and fire. It's the
All
same
right,
thing.
because you're right. I've seen where they've told you to use a spray bottle with water.
Yep.
So you want to put milk.
Milk
in
works the
using-
best. I mean, if you have a little bit of a flame, water will work. But if you have like a real grease fire, you're cooking burgers, and all of a sudden your grill's flaming up from all the grease from
Right.
like a little bit of flame. There's really no major amount of grease here other than the marinated oil. But if you're working with burgers, especially, a lot of times people start getting all these flames. Last thing you want to do is like put a cup of water on because it's just going to blast up in your face. A little bit of milk will put that grease fire out. So for grease fires, your best bet's milk.
And why is that with the milk?
Something in the proteins
proteins?
in the milk. Something
Okay.
about the proteins. We use 800-degree broilers, and there's times when we'll get flames with the Ansel system, and if the Ansel system goes off, you're out of business for a week. So
Yeah.
the guys always keep a half gallon of milk on the side, in the refrigerator next to them in case we
Yeah.
get a big grease fire. We put a little bit more of the marinade on the salmon as well.
Now at the Capital Grille, what do you usually do for fish? Because I know it's your
Capital Grille
it's
for fish.
mainly beef, but we're doing fish and chicken today. but what
we do actually. We're not as known for our fish, but 25% of our sales is seafood.
Wow, yeah.
So we actually do a fresh salmon, we do a fresh sushi grade tuna and swordfish, and then we usually feature one seasonal fish, whether it's halibut or snapper or redfish.
Okay.
We have crab in the restaurant, we always have lobsters in the restaurant, so we do a good amount of seafood.
Now for the home cook, what would you suggest starting out with fish on the grill? Something
Salmon works well.
Salmon, yeah.
Tuna, because tuna once again doesn't have to be cooked in a certain temperature. Halibut's a great fish for home. You don't want to grill a piece of scrod. You don't want to grease a piece of haddock.
I learned that before.
Sole
It's
or
delicate, yeah.
sole, fillet of sole or flounder doesn't grill well.
No.
So our chicken, as you can see, this is going to take a little longer because once again, you want to make sure your chicken's cooked. Our salmon is just about done. If you put the knife in, if you go into the back of that, you'll see the front needs a little more, but put your knife into the back. See how it goes right through?
Oh my goodness.
Now if you come up to the front here and try the same
Okay,
thing, it's
okay.
a little more, it gives you some resistance. Feel the resistance?
Yes.
So what we would do at that point.
Method,
now
yeah.
we'll turn this one more time, so the back will cook a little more. And the vegetables, we will pour some of the marinade on as well, so you get a little more flame on those. And as you can see, what part of the grill is hotter now is the part over here. So we'll move the vegetables to the hotter part of the grill.
Yep.
These are taking a little bit longer.
Now I'll tell you, I do the zucchini and summer squash a lot. This is so easy.
Yeah, this
to
is an
do,
easy,
isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah.
And the key is cut like you did. You cut them a little bit thick. If you cut them too thin, they're going to fall through. And the other thing is, cut them. Try and find larger pieces, because if you try and, as you saw, I lost one. But if you have smaller pieces, you're going to end up losing more. Now our salmon. Another thing with products is when they're almost done, you can almost see a sheen on the top of the product. You see how the juices are coming to the top of this salmon here? How it looks wet on the top? That's kind of that's an indicator that the product's pretty much cooked.
Okay.
So our salmon right now, we're going to say is finished. So we'll put that over here to keep it warm. And our chicken's very close, and our vegetables are fine. So now we'll get to the point of putting on the asparagus. Now the other thing is, it's good to keep a little soap and water to the side, like once again for sanitation purposes.
Yep, okay.
So now our tongs are, now that our chicken's pretty much cooked, everything else is cooked, it's safe to use the utensils.
And how can you check the chicken if it's done all the way?
Some people use a thermometer. The only true way to use, I mean, thermometer 165 would tell you that it's cooked all the way. But the problem is that it's such a thin piece. The easiest way to do it would be to put a knife into it or to bend it and look on the inside. This, you can see there's no color in it. It's not pink anymore.
Yeah.
People tend to overcook chicken as well.
Yeah.
If you're really nervous, I would say put a thermometer in there and make sure it's at about 165.
Okay.
All right. So now all we have left is our.
And it's just experience.
It's
after
experience,
a while.
exactly.
Yep, you'll know about.
Once you get sick on chicken, you'll know how to cook it.
Well, hopefully I never did that to any of my friends at any of my cookouts. So.
Alrighty, and then what we'll do is we'll take a couple slices of the lemon for a garnish that we cut up over here, and we'll just grill this off as well. And throw that on top of the fish.
Oh boy, I love lemon.
So as you can see, the asparagus is pretty much was cooked to begin with. So
Yep,
we're just going to brown this up a little bit to give it some flavor.
Yep.
We'll put a little salt and pepper on everything on the grill. Vegetables.
And you know, around this area in the spring, sometimes I get some fresh local asparagus.
Exactly.
So,
Another
you
good
can
item
get
is
that.
another good item for grilling is corn. You cook off your corn like you would at home, and then boil it. And once it's cooked, throw it on the grill just like the asparagus. A few minutes to give it a nice char flavor.
oh, okay.
You can see your vegetables are getting a nice color to them.
Yeah. Anything else you might want to suggest for beginners? Or?
For beginners, like I said, the main thing is don't play with the product too much. All you need is 3 or 4 turns, as you can see. Use the skewer for fish because that'll prevent you from drying up. You'll become a chef that people are envious of because of like, wow, every time I make my salmon at home, it's dry, and you don't have to. You can give them that secret or not. The blanching of the asparagus is a great idea because if you don't cook it ahead of time, it will burn before it's cooked. You could use corn. Steaks, same thing. Liberal amount of seasoning. Like great seasoning for steaks is Lowry seasoning. Yep. It gives it a good flavor, but you can liberally season steaks. Most of that stuff will cook off and it won't end up tasting really salty. Okay. So here we go. Shall we plate?
Yes, let's
Alrighty.
plate. Yep.
So we have our salmon.
I can't wait to try a salmon steak at home. I was always afraid, but now I won't be.
And our chicken.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We'll do our veggies.
I love learning garnishing techniques.
Garnishing,
too.
yeah, something. The best way to garnish is use the product that you started with. If you have your vegetables here and you're trying to make the plate look nice, people try and do a bunch of different things. What do we use in the marinade for the salmon? What the herbs? Do you remember?
In the salmon,
yeah, we use
thyme
and oregano, right?
Yep.
So why not take advantage of some of the beautiful flowers that grow on the thyme as well as the oregano? There's your garnish there. So you could easily take your fresh thyme with the purple flowers and do something along those lines, something very simple.
Nice, nice.
Right, and then your
Yeah.
your chicken and basil could easily be done the same way.
Yeah,
to-
and the garnishing also gives the diner a preview, if you will, of what's used in the dish.
Exactly,
Correct?
exactly.
Tells you,
You should.
yeah.
A couple
Oh,
things
I
with
love that.
couple
I love
things
this.
with couple things with garnishes. A, it should be edible. There's no reason to put something on a plate you can't eat. And B, it should be representative of the dish. It's kind of like the subtitle, if you would, or so forth on a dish. So now you have a very nice, elegant
That
looking.
is beautiful.
Let's take this water out of here.
May
There
I
you have
cut
it.
into the?
You may cut into whatever you would like. I've got some forks right here. Here's one. I had a few other ones. I don't know where I put those. Here's a fork right here. And here's a fork.
All right, great.
We'll
Thank
go right
you,
ahead.
Matt. Okay.
And when you cut into the salmon, cut right
Yeah,
into the center, and you'll be able to see that it's just cooked through, and it should be somewhat pink, but you'll have plenty of juice. It shouldn't be dry. Just cut it right in half.
Oh, that.
The netting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get the netting for you. And like I said, the skin, as you can see when we're cutting this, usually comes right off
Okay.
anyhow.
All right.
But it allows as an item to hold. So see how nice and moist your salmon is? It's cooked all the way through.
Oh my goodness.
with just a little bit of pink.
beautiful,
It's not dry.
beautiful. Okay. Let's, yeah.
Same thing with our chicken. You can still see the juice coming out of the chicken.
And I'll tell you, there's nothing like that flavor of the fresh herbs. You can't
That's
beat
a secret,
that.
no. And those of you at home that have herb gardens, a lot of people in the fall tend to dry out their herbs, try and save them for the next year. I'd recommend picking up some ice cube trays, chopping up your herbs, fill an ice cube tray, pour water on them, and turn them into ice cubes. Because then when you cook, you have fresh herbs all year. Put them in a Ziploc bag in the freezer. When you're cooking at home and you need basil, you throw a couple ice cubes in, all the water evaporates, and it ends up being, you wouldn't know it wasn't a fresh herb.
You're kidding.
It's a secret. Yeah?
God, perfect.
So when you have large amounts of basil like I have over here in the garden, and you're like, wow, I grew too much, chop it up, ice cube it, and you'll have it all year round, Christmas time.
Perfect. Oh my
And the
goodness.
same thing, you could have introduced any of these herbs if you really wanted to the asparagus as well.
Okay.
But it's fine just the way it is with a little salt and pepper.
Very good.
There you have it.
All
Garden
right.
101.
Well, thank you so much, Matt.
very welcome.
I
It was great
appreciate
seeing you again.
being on the show today.
I appreciate it. My pleasure.
For more recipes and to view previous episodes of Linda's Kitchen, log on to lindas-kitchen.com.